this is in the news the last couple of weeks. Robbie Lawler has left AT&T.
AT&T is a phone company.
God, I love you right now. Anyway, that's pretty big news because
you said anyway, but there's more in the notes there. Are you having a hard time with the next word?
What are you getting at?
I'm asking if you bagged part of a question because you couldn't read it.
Robbie Lawler has left his longtime gym, ATT. Why the reason's unknown. This is now the second time in a short period where the former champion switched gyms after a loss. Now, both Robbie Lawler and Rafael Dos Anjos left their respected gyms upon losing the world titles.
And that's a question or a statement. You want me to respond to that? I heard that Robbie had left. I found it interesting just because they had such a good bond out there with him and the coaches and Dan Lambert. They were so supportive, and Robbie really did turn his career around when he got to ATT in a noticeable way. We've had Robbie on this podcast and asked him straight up, because people were asking me all the time, why is Robbie Lawler so good all of a sudden? I did not know, but the one intangible that I could point to was the fact that he was at a new gym. And I brought it up to him, and he gave that to me. He said, yeah, that's the only difference I've made. It's the only change that I made. So it did surprise me. And then the other part of the story I'd like is where he's going to end up. Is he going back to Iowa? Is he going to move somewhere else? I haven't heard that. And whoever gets Robbie, it's going to up their own program. So that was really my only thought on that.
All right, so let's do this. Let's do some recent fight announcements, and then we'll do what the fans love. They love those rumors. This is an interesting. Anderson Silva versus Derek Brunson announced for UFC 208.
I like it. I thought that would be Uriah Hall's fight. I'd be surprised if there wasn't some backstory there. I haven't talked to Uriah, but he is out here. He'll be at the fight. Maybe I'll ask him. But I thought that would be his fight for a couple of reasons. One, he was scheduled with Anderson anyway in Brazil, went out there. Anderson had that gallbladder issue. The fight got scrapped. But two, the fight that you're referencing with Brunson is going to take place on the Brooklyn card. Uriah is from New York. So I thought that would have been his fight. But I like the fight. You know, that Brunson, he's a gamer. There's no way around it. He's a gamer. Technically, he's got some issues. Power-wise, he's got an advantage. And, the key with Anderson is to go out there and fight him. And not very many guys have. And the few that have gone out there and fought him have done really well. I believe that Brunson will go out there and fight him. What happens after that, we'll have to find out.
All right, that was actually the only one I had there. I had some other stuff that I'm not that interested in, so let's get to rumors. World Series of Fighting stars Justin Gaethje and Marion Moroz may be heading to the UFC sooner than later, as both are now soon to be free agents. Word is the World Series of Fighting is already prepping to handle the departure of its two biggest draws.
Yeah, so they're two biggest draws. That would be interesting. I don't know if that's factual or not, but boy, those guys are two good fighters, and I don't know where they're going to end up. I'm not sure why the UFC comes into play. Perhaps it's will. There's some other options out there.
Okay, so this is my question. We've talked about this before as friends, and I think on the podcast as well too. After an event, after a fight, win or lose, you have a certain amount of depression afterwards because now, basically you don't have any purpose.
Post-fight depression, real thing.
Yeah. When the show concluded, was there any similarities in that, or were you just glad to be home?
Well, television sucks. Television sucks. Movies suck. Commercials suck. The only good thing you get from that is your buddies think it's cool. It's a cool thing to tell your friends, hey, I'm in such and such movie. And it works. They're like, oh, wow, I'll go see that movie, man. How cool was that experience? And you just go, oh, yeah, it was really great. You never tell them the truth that it sucks. You're paid to stand around and wait. I mean, if anybody in the world that I came from construction, I was on the plumbing side of things, but if anybody on a job site was as lazy as an entire crew on a film set, they would be gone. You would never see them again. It is unbelievable. I mean, I'll show up to something and they don't have the cameras right. It'll take 2 hours till they get it right. And you go, guys, have you ever heard of the news, the highest rated thing on television? Have you ever heard of of the Super Bowl, the highest rated game of the year? Those are live. You hit the goddamn red button and whatever happens, happens. Start the cameras. You'll show up to set. They can't get cameras right. Or you'll start doing it and they'll stand down because the light wasn't perfect or somebody's sound wasn't right. It's like, guys, the highest rated things on TV are live. Push the goddamn button and let's go.
All right, baby. I'm going to back up to matchups because we really didn't talk about this. Tony Ferguson.
Big Ferg is fighting Khabib, and it is for the interim title.
Yeah. Now, one of the fans of the show brought it to my attention that, hey, Daniel Cormier hadn't fought in quite some time and has pulled out of 2 fights for injuries. Why haven't they put that title on the line as an interim? And I think the answer is they tried to, but Rumble said, no, I don't want to fight for that.
Maybe. I can't speak to that. I can't speak to anything on the interim. It used to be, and again, this came from the boxing model, and we adopted it. But if a guy did not fight for 12 months, for any reason, for 12 months of inactivity, he was subject to be stripped. Now, they did not call it an interim title. They stripped it, and they made it the real title. We came up with this interim business, and I liked it. Like in case of, say, Dominic Cruz, by example, somebody that's out for 3.5 years. You've got to do something there. I liked it, but I also understood it because the 12 months thing was observed. In this case, there doesn't seem to be any kind of parameter, so I can't put my thumb on it, man. If they call it an interim title fight, apparently that's all it needs to be an interim title fight. There is no other criteria that has to be met.
All right. Joe Rogan speculated on his Fight Companion show that Todd Grisham, UFC new hire, will take over studio duties, while John Anik is promoted to take over Goldberg's full-time duties. Could this mean no to Jim Rome?
Hey, you and I are the ones that broke the Jim Rome news, but we're also the ones that shared our opinions that deal never gets done. I just can't see Rome at his age and with his geographic location and getting to stay and sleep in his own bed every night, going on the road at 47 years old. That's a very uncommon thing to do. So could that stop it? Yeah. I mean, look, give Anik his shot, man. That guy's a pro. That guy is fantastic. And as far as Todd Grisham goes, he knocked it out of the park. I thought he was a great host. He never misses a beat. He's a true professional. They got some great talent there. But as far as the Rome thing, man, that's not dead. They've got until July. They've always had until July. Let's see where that goes.
Now, the world of mixed martial arts is literally the worst. Nobody keeps a secret. Nobody keeps a lid on anything in this business. Generally, you did mention that Bellator does a great job. What's the deal with Goldberg? What happened? What happened with Goldberg?
I've got the answer with that. I'm not going to share it publicly. If you want to know that, ask me afterwards. But I'll leave it at that.
Well, when you say that, then I'm going to have 50,000 people get a hold of me right after and say, hey, what did Chael say?
Yeah, I understand that, but I still got to leave it at that.
All right, good enough. You want to do some pro wrestling?
Sure, what do you got?
A Brock Lesnar versus Bill Goldberg rematch. Triple H versus Seth Rollins and Shaq versus The Big Show are the 3 matches that are in the books for WrestleMania 33.
Boy, that Triple H, man, he just cannot wield his power and not use it to put himself over. I got to think if you're a shareholder, at some point you go, man, enough's enough. If you want to go work the roads and do the heavy lifting, we're on board. For you to come out at WrestleMania and then put yourself over in either a main event or the number 2 spot year after year, it's a piss-off. And year after year, you lose at WrestleMania, which is the only part of it that you do right. To let a guy put you over when you're not out there working is pretty tough to do. So, he gets half of it right, but I mean, he gives himself the most expensive entrance, the biggest fancy everything. It's really quite a bizarre thing, man. Look, you're banging the boss's daughter, you moved your way to the top, but at some point, enough is enough.